Working in the real world is tough, man. It's tough out there.
Okay, why is that?
It's just tough. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Life is difficult?
Yeah, sometimes you have all these goals and ambitions, and they might get derailed.
Okay.
Maybe you're optimistic of how well you're doing, and then something happens, and then, So I wanted to start us off on this. Working in the real world is tough, and life happens lesson of our lessons learned after completing our MPH series.
Yeah.
Because what gets lost in the whole ambition-driven discussions that we've been having is that there are things that are external to you that could impact what the reality looks like. And we wanted to hold space for what that looks like. My name is Gordon. I'm here with LaShawn, back with another episode of the Public Health Insight Podcast. And we are diving into lesson number 7 of our MPH lecture series for Western MPH. But why stop at Western MPH? Why not bring it to you? So hence we're here to have a discussion on this. You're listening to the Public Health Insight Podcast, your go-to space for all things public health and global health, from the Sustainable Development Goals to the social determinants of health, as well as interesting dialogues about the diverse career opportunities that exist in these fields. Remember to subscribe to the podcast and leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify so other people like you can benefit from our content. So initially, LaShawn, when we were making these lessons, we felt it was important to add working in the real world is tough. And maybe that's how we ended up getting to lesson number 9, because 9 is, I feel like people usually go odd numbers or 10 and 5. I think we maybe had 8 and then added in to get 9. So why did we feel it was so important to name out the contextual factors that goes around a person that will inhibit or enable them to succeed in what their goal is?
Why do we have to talk about it? It's because we don't talk about it enough. We often glamorize the fact that, hey, we're going to get these jobs, we're going to kill it, we're going to move up the ladder, I'm going to be making that cash money, I'm going to buy
these
cars,
degrees.
Do all these hectic things that you want to do. And that's great, and it's great that you're ambitious. However, there are things surrounding your life, as Gordon mentioned, some contextual factors that can affect your job and working in the real world, right? So what are we talking about here? So your work hours, something as simple as that. When you're working, are you working remotely, or are you working in a physical location at your organization? Why does that matter? Because
travel, commute. Oh, geez.
Travel, commute. Are you away from your significant other? Are you traveling to a different city? It reduces the amount of times you could tend to other things. And depending on the workload you have at work hours becomes really important. Are you able to set those boundaries for yourself? Or are you working 10, 12-hour shifts every day, even though you're not being paid for 4 of those hours, for example, right? And what this can contribute to over time is potential burnout or, dissatisfaction with your job. And it could lead to a whole host of different mental health challenges, right? So it's really important to make sure that you have a more holistic approach to your job and your career in general, right? So the work hours was one of the things. And I know one thing that Gordon and I always talk about is it's great that you have a job, but let's think about your lifestyle for a second. How does your job contribute to your lifestyle? Well, you're making money for a reason. What are your financial goals? Can you tell us a bit more about that, Gordon?
It's not all about the money. Just kidding. So I'm really glad that you framed it like that, because I think at the end of the day, we want to shift that narrative and discourse around someone's job or career being 100% of their identity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think off air, one of the way you phrase it, LaShawn, was around having a career is not the end all be all. So yes, one is important in this day and age that we earn a living and do something so that you can make money to take care of your basic needs and have money to explore things that you're passionate and interested in. Like that's sort of the bare minimum. Does your career then need to be a lot more than that? And that's kind of the question that we're asking. So you have financial goals in mind, whether it's to be able to meet your basic needs or do additional things that are more leisure based that you would get some kind of fulfillment out of, and that piece is important because then it allows you to bring your best self back to the career that you want to devote your time to. So that's why those financial goals are important. And then it being in a position where you're unable to realize those financial goals can also perpetuate the cycle of feeling burnt out and stressed and feeling you have to give even more of your time to realize those goals. And then that doesn't necessarily set you up for success in the very long term. And then you're in a position now where you're having to balance all the facets of your life that you deem as important. And
yeah, when are you gonna talk? When are you gonna talk to families or take care of your pets?
Yeah, right. What if you have dogs or pets that you take care of, a partner? Maybe you're very connected with your parents who live close by, and you have a relationship with them that you maintain, relationship with your friends and cousins, being able to have time to take vacations and build those relationships. It all becomes a lot to manage if it's being drowned out by a job or a career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I like to think about what you always say, Gordon, about your pie chart, your famous pie chart. So thinking about, there's so many different parts of your identity, like you said, family, pets, caregiving, your interests, like if you play soccer, if you watch soccer on the weekends and you're an Arsenal fan, and they all apparently been getting red cards or something. I don't know.
Don't get me started, man.
But there's so many different things that you have to do. But if you're always thinking about work and doing all that stuff, and I understand, like there are situations where it's really dire and you need to provide. Totally take that point. However, there's often a culture, especially in North America, where everyone's just grinding and hustling and doing the most, and it leads to a lot of these burnout rates that we're seeing, high burnout rates that we're seeing. So just kind of a reminder to just reflect on your own personal situation and see what does your pie chart look like, where you're allocating your time and effort to. Because again, what Gordon and I always like to say is life happens. All of a sudden, what happens if you get sick or someone you know gets sick, right? Some of that energy or some of that attention you're giving to a certain slice of that pie is going to be taken away to deal with that situation, rightfully so. And how are you going to react to that? Well, if your identity is all focused on career, it could be devastating, right? But you have to have this healthy appreciation that things are going to be shifting. There's going to be some sort of dynamic nature to this pie, and you want to remain flexible if possible in case things happen, right? Because life happens, right? And life is difficult. So just a little reflection we often say, because oftentimes we always think about career, that's the next thing, that's really important, and that's the be-all, end-all, right? But there's so many different intersecting points with your career, with your other identities.
Absolutely. So in the last episode we talked about building out a dream career and all the different considerations that go into that. We also wanted to present another side of that. Equally as important as being ambitious is how do you build your life around that career, or build your career around your life? Maybe that's a framing we need to use, right? In such a way that things are conducive in terms of your overall mental wellness. Because like in the pie chart example, LaShawn, that you eloquently went over, there are things there that will naturally change, and there's nothing wrong with them changing. Maybe I had a phase where I would binge Netflix shows, and that would take out a portion of my day. Now I don't care about it as much, and then that part of the pie chart shrinks, and then it opens up space for something else. Those are natural, and that's fine. There might be things in your pie chart that are immovable, and there's no space to be more efficient than you currently are in those. And therefore, you have to kind of take that into consideration, that no matter what I do, this is an untouchable chunk, and I only have the rest to kind of balance things out. And that comes at the expense that that's something that you might ordinarily would have wanted to do, but you can't because you can't sacrifice something else. So it's a constant balancing act in terms of your overall work-life balance, or life-work balance, as people have
I like
made
that.
a pitch to propose.
You got to coin that term, bro.
I'm not the coiner. I've heard it used before.
Life work balance.
Life work balance, like because it's like building your work around your life.
Yeah.
And I think I would say, LaShawn, I think given where things were maybe decades ago, it's way more now acceptable to say, these are the parameters of my life, and I don't want a job to impede on that.
Yeah.
You would have been seen as quote unquote crazy back in the day if you were like making all these demands. Well, I need to be remote. I don't want to go into the office.
Yeah.
Now it's way more acceptable to have those types of demands and have those types of requests and those types of parameters around your life that allows you to be your best self and not sacrifice who you are in the spirit of pursuing an ambitious career. And those types of discussions are way more acceptable now than there were previously. So what we don't want to be lost here is the importance of protecting all of that in the search of building out what a dream career looks like, because they both feed into each other, if you know what I mean. Yeah,
no, that's absolutely true. And y'all might be wondering, like, oh my, this is a lot to think about. Like, I wasn't thinking about all these things till LaShawn and Gordon kind of brought it up, and now they're stressing me out, and now I'm spiraling downwards. Well, no. First of all, let's spiral upwards. Second of all,
I like that.
I read it on LinkedIn somewhere. It's not me, but I liked it though. It was nice. But more importantly, you might feel alone in this, but I would encourage everyone to start having conversations about it. Like, many of you have mentors in the field, and they're more seasoned people in the field sometimes, and they might have some specific advice that they have used to maintain more of a life-work balance. So it's worth having those conversations and talking about it, or just talk to your friends about it too and ask them, hey, how do you maintain a good life-work balance? And oftentimes what I have heard, like, I have friends in law school and who've graduated and become lawyers, their life-work balance is not the best, right? So hearing different perspectives and opinions on it is really good. But also note that you're going to see it all the time on LinkedIn and all these other platforms of people at the top 0.00001% saying, hey, I'm a million times more productive than you. I schedule every minute of the day, and I'm optimizing every single thing in my work to make sure I have X, Y, Z time and blah, blah, blah. Okay, it's great if you're that disciplined and you have all that, I don't even know what it's called at this point, but if you have that mindset, that's great, and you're definitely you probably are going to be productive and achieve your goals, which is fantastic. But there's something about living your life in a very flexible way that kind of brings a human element to the table, right? And we don't want to lose that human element in the search of productivity and work.
I like that. And I would just cap that point off, going back to the pie chart. If you free up one part of your pie chart, does it need to be replaced with something else? Right?
Yeah.
You could expand something that you want to expand, or leave it blank for now. Leave it as free time. That's fine too. Like LaShawn said, you don't necessarily need or want to be scheduling every single minute of your day. It might work for some people, but not for others. So we'll leave everything there. The key takeaway here is, after reflecting on all the things that we've learned and the thirst for ambition, the thirst for contributing to the field of public health, the thirst for learning, and all that chaotic energy out there, there's space to be said, and there's something to be said about taking a pause, right? There's something to be said about acknowledging to yourself that there's more out there than just your career. You're a human being after all. LaShawn and I are humans, and humans have to end things. This is Gordon and LaShawn signing off. Until next time.
Peace.
Peace. This show was edited by me, Gordon Thane, with additional editing from LaShawn Benedict. Sound design and mixing by myself and LaShawn Benedict. The original music from The Music Room, composed by Tom Fox, licensed from Johnny Harris. The cover art designed for our show by LaShawn Benedict. The Public Health Insight Podcast is produced by PHI Media. Thank you for listening to the Public Health Insight Podcast, your go-to space for informative conversations, inspiring community action. If you enjoy our podcast, be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. See you in the next one.